It's November 14th, 2023. We are in Ellsworth, Kansas, and this is David Bontrager. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Thank you for visiting with us today.
Well, I feel very honored.
Well, we just have a few questions to talk about, and first of all, can you tell me where you were born?
I was born in Springer, New Mexico, July 3rd, 1926. My parents lived in New Mexico out on the prairie at that time, and I was the only child out of 12 born in so-called hospital.
Were you the youngest?
No, I was the ninth one.
Okay.
I was the ninth of 12 children, and but it was hot, and Dad thought Mother ought to be where she would have immediate attention, so he sent her with the mailman to Springer the day before, and I was born the next day. That's
a great story. So did you go to school there in Springer?
No, ma'am. My folks left New Mexico when I was just 7 months old, and they moved back to Reno County, Kansas, northeast of Yoder.
And that's where you went to school?
That's where I went to grade school, and then when I was out of grade school, we moved to Hutchinson, to South Hutchinson, and I went to Hutchinson for a short time, and then my folks moved out to Park Ridge, and I went to school at Park Ridge, and I went 2 years at high school in Park Ridge. But I hadn't started school until I was 7 because my folks had 4 kids in school and they didn't want another. So anyhow, I took 2 years of high school, and then I was drafted.
And you were drafted into which branch?
I was drafted into the Army, and but first I got a 6 months deferment because my folks had 3 sons already in service, and all of them were overseas. And so we were in the fall crop seeding, and Dad needed me to help get the fall crop in. So I got a deferment, 6 months deferment. And my deferment was up in November, and I got a draft notice to go take my physical at Leavenworth, which I did. And I passed. I come home, and 2 weeks later I had notice that I was to be report for duty in February the 20th, 1945. And I was inducted then in Leavenworth. And then from there I went to work. We was there for about 2 weeks, and then we were transported to Fort McClellan, Alabama. That's where I took my basic training. But in the meantime, my mother had gotten a letter from my brothers saying, "Tell David to volunteer for anything he can sign up for." That was unusual. And so I did. So when we got through basic training, the opportunity come up to sign up for the paratroopers. And hey, that was $50 a month more. So I volunteered for the paratroopers. Went through basic training of paratrooper, jump training, and that was an intensive 4 weeks that I ever done. But anyhow, I graduated and got my wings. And then they asked for volunteers for riggers. Oh, riggers. Well, hey, had a brother that was a rigger in the Navy. So I volunteered for the riggers and went to Fort Bragg, Georgia, and Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and took my training for parachute rigging and mending. And then after graduating from that, I've done nothing but rig and repair parachutes and help boys into their chutes when they got ready to jump. And done that for near a year. And then one day they come in and they said, we're closing you down. You're going to go into full field Japanese warfare training. And we done, it was either 4 weeks or 6 weeks of full Japanese warfare training. And when we got done, we was on a hike up this long hill with a full field pack, and it was at the end of the hike. And just as we got about to the top, a Jeep come tearing up the side and halt the whole company. And we all took 10. Anyhow, word come back down, Japanese surrendered. And that changed the whole picture. And I look back and I think, because the scuttlebutt was going around camp, that when we finished that training, we were being shipped to Saipan. And we knew what that meant. That meant we were getting ready for the invasion of Japan. And hey, the whole training changed. We were in November. Then come November, we went ahead and done parachute packing and helping guys with their jumps. And then in November, they come to us, you either sign up for regular Army or you get discharged. And I wanted to go home and stick my feet under Mom's table. So I took my discharge.
Oh, yeah. So that was in November.
Oh, 46.
46.
Yeah.
So all of your time was in the States just preparing.
And this is what I want to say. I spent all my time in the States, almost 2 years. And how fortunate I was, because the advice that my brothers had given me, my training, and kept me here. Because buddies that I had been in the Army infantry training had already been over and seen action in Guam and on foreign Japanese soil. And so my praying parents, I think, kept me here.
That's great.
I have.
So I wanted to ask you about when you said you packed up the chutes and you got the guys ready. So were you up in the plane with them as well?
We jumped, one or two of the boys out of the rigging company, packing company, jumped with the boys whenever they went out for their month or their tri-monthly jumps. They had to jump every 3 months in order to receive their $50 a month extra pay. And we go, there'd be one or two of us go with them and jump with them. But we'd go down on the field and we'd see to it that when they got into their chute, that everything was tight and ready and everything was ready to go. And I enjoyed that. That was a great pleasure of ours to go down, and we enjoyed encouraging these boys as they got ready to jump. They'd always be nervous, and we'd try and calm them down and tell them why we were ready, tightening everything up, making sure everything was right when they got ready to jump. And
That's a very important job.
I enjoyed it. And
And you met a lot of different people that way.
we met all kinds of people from all over. Yes, we did. Like I had 11 jumps.
11 jumps.
Yes, I had 5. I had 5 jumps before I ever landed in an airplane. And I had been home for help with harvest, and I went back, and my sister and her family bought me a plane ticket, and that was the first plane ride I had where I landed in the airplane.
Oh.
But anyhow, that's a little side kick up.
Well, so you understood what those guys were going through their first jump, because on your first jump, I'm sure you
yes.
felt the same way.
We knew what they were going through, and we wanted to make them, that when they jumped out the door, that they didn't get bruised and hurt. We wanted to make sure the harness and everything fit fine. And it was interesting.
Oh, yeah.
And
Well, going back to your basic training, you said that those 4 weeks were pretty intense. Can you tell us what a basic or regular day was like in training?
well, first thing in the mornings, we'd run. And we'd get out and we'd run for a full solid hour at full speed. There was no trotting, it was running. And if you dropped out, you'd better fall flat on your face and lay still until the medics picked you up. If you weren't, they'd pick you up and set you on your feet and make you run some more.
Oh, my word.
And then we had calisthenics, and we done that for an hour. And then we done push-ups. Talked about push-ups. We had a young man that had been to Germany, had come back with the 82nd Airborne, and he was one of the cadre that was teaching push-up. And he'd be up there on the stand, and he'd be doing push-ups with one hand, with one arm, and then he'd change arms, and he'd keep us doing push-ups. And that, we always felt like, wow, I wished he'd drop dead. But anyhow, we survived, and there was just calisthenics, physical training all night. When I come out of there, I weighed 145 pounds. I had lost 40 pounds over a 6 months period.
Wow.
But I enjoyed it. I wouldn't take anything in the world for it. The good Lord just blessed me, and I was wonderful.
Great.
So that's, other than that, I made a lot of friends, and I wouldn't take anything for my training that I had received. I learned that you cooperate with people, and you got along with people. Regardless if you didn't like them, you still got along with them. And I learned, and I had a lot of friends then.
Did you stay in touch with these friends after you got out?
No, sir. Matt, I just, for some reason, I had friends in Missouri, Wisconsin, California, you name it. I've never had contact with any of them. For some reason, we all went our own way. Well, started families, went home, and before long, we were all married and had families.
Mm-hmm. When you came home, you came back to Kansas, and where did you live at that time?
We lived down northeast of Yoder,
Okay.
a few miles, and that's well, I lived with my parents. I worked for my dad, and then it was just 2 year afterwards, I met this young lady, and we got married, and we were married and living in Hutchinson. We got a chance to go to western Kansas, to Johnson, and worked for a farmer. And we went out there, and we lived in Stanton County, Johnson, for 15 years. And that's where our children were all born. And then later, I went from there to Collingwood Grain to Scott City. And I was at Scott City for 8.5 years. Then we moved back to Hutchinson because her mother and my mother both needed help. And so we moved to Hutchinson and to help them. And that's where we raised our families. And
Sounds like a nice life. And how many children do you have?
we had 3 children and a daughter that lives in North Dakota. And then we had another daughter that she had gotten her training at KU Med Center as a respiratory therapist. And she married and went to Alaska. And then Brian was born. Now, another little story. Her husband, the day he was born, was July 30th. And we were living in western Kansas, and we had this little water-cooled air cooler. And the wife, she was pregnant and expecting a baby any day. And the 2 little girls were older than Brian, come running in. Mama, there's a rattlesnake under the water cooler. She went and grabbed a rake or a hoe, I forget which, but anyhow, she went out and killed the rattlesnake. Then the oldest one come running to me. I was working across the road on the tractor. Hey, Daddy, come to the house. Mama killed a rattlesnake. Anyhow, went in, and that night, Brian, our son, was born.
There's a lot of excitement for one day.
For one day it was. And we always remind him that, yes.
Came in with a pretty exciting time.
Yes, but
He didn't you have something to do with the parade at the end of the war? Of the parade?
yes, during my time at Fort Bragg, in November, after Japan had surrendered, they they got us ready, and we went to Washington. The 82nd Airborne was taken to Washington, D.C., and we were in the Army National Parade that day. And I marched up Pennsylvania Avenue, down Constitution Avenue, and we had a great time. But I was in those gloves and the C are from that parade.
Wow.
But
How many service people do you think was in that parade? Thousands?
thousands, yeah. The whole 82nd Airborne was moved up there, and we were the proud 82nd, and they had a real record from Germany. The 82nd was well known in Germany. They made not with jokes.
So your unit was the 82nd?
My unit was the 82nd Airborne, yes. And that's, everything I've got has got 82nd on it. But we were a proud unit. And,
Oh, yeah.
Boots and our
Great.
wings was really something. Well, I guess it's up there. They're up there.
We'll get a photo of it. Yes, that's great. Did you ever have a chance to meet General Eisenhower?
I never seen General Eisenhower, but we had General Gavin was our company commander, and I seen him a number of times. Yes, but I may have seen Eisenhower in the parade, but I never.
Yeah.
We didn't have time to look at it.
You were busy paying attention and keeping in line.
Marching, yes. But
Yeah.
that was something. Going up on Pennsylvania and down Constitution, or vice versa. But that was, we were a proud bunch of people.
You bet. You bet. How would you say, or can you say, that the military affected your life?
Well, I'll say this. The military, I was a farm kid, never had been off the farm, and to be drafted and to be put under a species of military training. And when we were in boot camp, when I got into boot camp and being assembled for the first time in squads, my squad leader, the sergeant, come up, says, Bontrager, you're a squad leader for Squad 1. Well, what's that? And I learned. And there's one little story I tell with this is, but he had been in Germany. He wasn't airborne, but he had been in Germany, been home, and had been wounded. But boy, he was from New York. And I tell you, and when he spoke, you listened. And the first Saturday of the inspection, I was the first one in line. He come up to me and he took my piece. He looked at it, and he shoved it back in my arms. Then he laid it up to me and he says, Bontrager, clean that thing up. And that's all he said. And he went down the line, and boy, I tell you, a lot of them got orders to clean to pieces, and loud and strong. But me, I never understood until later, because I was a squad leader. I was supposed to be an example for the rest of them, and he never treated me out in front of the rest of the squad. And I always respected him for that. And I learned all kinds of things, that you work with people. You learn to do and be good to them and tell them in so many words. You can be strong and stern, but you don't have to be mad. And I learned that
At an early age, yes.
Yes.
Well, I have just one more question. Well, two actually. Do you have a message that you would like to say to people that might watch this video, to young people about World War II?
What I can say is honor your country, honor God and your country and the people that you live for. Work with them. Don't try to destroy them, but to lift them up and make a better people. It made me a better person, and I want you to be better people, because this country needs better people and stronger people that are willing to serve God and to serve each other.
Well said. So, David, tell me about your brother, Dan Bontrager, that was in the Army. He went in as a conscientious objector.
But he soon found out that he could not stay there, and he wanted to do something else. So he left that and joined the Army at Fort Collins, Colorado. And he took his medical training, or his training there, and then it was at the time they were shipping everybody to Europe, to England. And he was shipped with his company, and when the invasion started, they followed the invasion in, and he drove truck and whole Army or medical supplies from the rear
to the front line.
Front line, yes. And he spoke German. He spoke some German, so they used him as a German interpreter at different times. Several times they prisoners of war, and they didn't have nobody to interpret for them, and they found out he could, so they'd get him and he'd interpret for the Germans. And he had quite a time. He enjoyed it. But
and then you had two other brothers in the service?
Yes. Then Art was in the Navy, and he started in at the Hutchinson Naval Air Base, and then he got acquainted with the guy that was rigged the parachutes for the young pilot's training and talked him into coming in and signing up for a rigger. And he went to the officer anyhow. He got transferred into as a rigger. And that influenced me to sign up. Anyhow, he worked there, and then later he transferred or was shipped to off of the coast of Ecuador. And that's where he served until he was discharged. And then Eli was drafted right away, and he took his training at Great Lakes Naval Station. And then he was assigned, he got into the gun.